Good morning. It's Sunday, November 6th. It's about 10:30. Hang on a second. This is my place. This is what I look at most days. If you couldn't hear me, I was saying, this is my place. This is what I'm looking at most days. What you're seeing here. Adjust this a little bit. I just want to talk to you guys about something. So bring this over here. Kind of aim it down. Zoom it in. And then I can share with you what I'm looking at. Hang on just a second. Let me pause and I'll be right back with you. Okay. Well, what you can't see is I'm sitting behind you now with a cup of coffee. And you'll hear me occasionally take a sip while I eat my breakfast. They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and I couldn't agree more. So this morning for breakfast I'm having pumpkin pie swirled cheesecake and a cup of coffee. Hope you're all doing well out there, considering the times we're in and the stress that the body has on it right now, the body of Christ. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I was looking up something in 1 Corinthians chapter 12, and it had to do with spiritual gifts. Because I had this, realization this morning that some of us have discerning spirits with us and others don't. And there's a reason for that. It's because not all of us have the same gifts. And that's why I believe, and just kind of at this point, I feel that it might not be quite as obvious to others. It's just not their thing, It's not their bodily function in the body of Christ to have to see this. But we do. We have to see it for whatever reason. And even though you can lay it right out in front of them, sometimes they still can't see it, and it's confusing to us. It's like, it bewilders me. But I'm trying to get my mind around the fact that that's not the way they function in the body. And there are things that they see that I probably can't. But I was looking through this passage because I was recently talking to my aunt, who is my mom's sister. And she's in her 90s. And I was talking to her. I actually got into a conversation with her about the changes. And the first thing she said was that the Bible can't change. And I told her that I was reading from the King James Version. And she told me that she was reading from, I believe, the New King James or the ESV. Seems to be kind of the common ones right now. But, right off the bat, she told me that it couldn't change. And, I gave her a couple of instances, and one of them is in James, chapter 1, verse 25, "But whoso looketh into the perfect law of liberty, and continueth therein, he being not a forgetful hearer, but a doer of the work, this man shall be blessed in his deed." A doer of the work. And I pointed that out. I said it's doer of the word, not doer of the work. It's doer of the word. But she couldn't really have a conversation about it because it didn't compute with her, because she doesn't believe it. And see, we don't have to believe it, we see it, but she would have to believe it because she doesn't see it. And so it kind of makes sense to me, in a way. There are definitely parts of the body that I don't do that my aunt does, for sure. She has the gift of hospitality like nobody's business. She's a natural servant. And I have a lot of respect for her, and I love her. She's the closest thing I have on this earth right now to my mom. And I've always loved my aunt. I always have. And I miss my uncle. We just lost just recently. Anyway, I see that I'm about 7 minutes in, and I haven't really even gotten to this yet, but as I read this, I realized something wrong. There's something wrong with the way that this read. And I was reading it in the King James Version, looking for these gifts, right? Reading through about and I wanted to read that. So, bear with me. Hang on just a second. Alright, so here we are. It's 1 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 8. "For to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another faith by the same Spirit, to another the gift of healing by the same Spirit, to another the working of miracles, to another prophecy, to another divers kinds of tongues, to another interpretation of tongues. But all these worketh that," let me read this right, verse 11. "But all these worketh that one and the same," let me start over. "But all these worketh that one and the selfsame," all one word, "Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will." Severally as he will. Okay, let me read that again. This is 1 Corinthians, King James Version, 1 Corinthians, chapter 12, verse 11. "But all these worketh that one and the selfsame Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will." And I'm like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Now, my aunt would tell me it can't change, but she would also then turn around and tell me, but she doesn't read the King James Version. And I'm looking at it all the time, and I can see it's changing. It doesn't say the same thing as all of the other translations do right now, and I'm here to show you. Get a little coffee there. So here we go. If you look at this is the first one that came up, and it was, I believe, the Berean Bible. "All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, who apportions them to each one as he determines." So that makes more sense, right? Let me grab my mouse. Oh man, this is real rookie, but here we go. So now this one here, what was it? The New King James Version reads, "But one and the same Spirit works all these things, distributing to each one individually as he will." That makes sense, right? This is the English Standard. "All these are empowered by one and the same Spirit, who apportions to each one individually as he wills." The New American Standard. "But one and the same Spirit works all these things, distributing to each one individually, just as he wills." The New International Version. "All these are the work of one and the same Spirit, and he distributes them to each one, just as he determines." And finally, the King James Version. "But all these worketh that one and the self-same Spirit, dividing to every man severally as he will." I don't know what you guys think about that, but what more do you need to look at? And you would think that that would be enough to get other people to see it. Are we supposed to wake them up or not? I don't know. Maybe some of them aren't meant to be woken up. I don't know. Woken? Awakened? Okay, well, anyway, I wanted to point that out. I really hope you guys are hanging in there. It's getting crazier. I feel like we're being swirled and swirled and swirled, and at the last minute, just before we're all sucked down, we're going to be snatched up. So I'm kind of waiting for that. It's been some really beautiful days. A little chilly today, but sunny, and not as windy as it was yesterday. I have some work to do today, and I'm gonna run over and hang out with my son for a little while today. You guys, hope you have a nice Sunday. Take care. Love y'all. See you soon.